From a villainous hideout on the moon to the community center in Angel Grove, all the way to the mysterious command center, you're listening to Mighty Morphin Podcast Rangers, where we cover everything from TV to movies and comics.
Welcome to another episode of the Mighty Morphin Podcast and Vidcast Rangers. In this case, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Nick Zednik. Nick, how's it going?
Adam, it's Morphin time, not morphine time. It's Morphin time.
It is indeed. What, did I say it wrong?
Nope. I was about to say it wrong. So
okay,
I was like, nope.
Yeah, you never know.
Morphin, not morphine. Classic game mistake.
Yeah. So many people make that mistake.
Yep.
But as we said, this is going to be a semi-regular occurrence whenever there is news or a special occasion to discuss. And in this case, it's more news related, but we thought we'd add some more meat to the sandwich while we're here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the upcoming rebooted universe news that we have. And then we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to review, since we're talking about a rebooted universe, let's look back at the first attempt at a reboot, the 2017 Lionsgate movie, Power Rangers. So that's on the agenda today. And so let's get right into it. Now, Nick, there's been a lot of hand-wringing concern amongst the Power Rangers fandom that what's happening with the reboot? We haven't heard anything. Has Jonathan Entwistlle left the project because he deleted Power Rangers off of his Twitter handle? And oh my God, there's trouble and blah, blah. And turns out that was a lot of nonsense and people were trying to play Sherlock and Batman and were horribly wrong because their detective skills sucked. Yep. In fact, the news is that no, Jonathan Entwistlle has not left the project. He's very much still involved, and they've added another piece to the new Power Rangers universe puzzle, and that piece happens to be a showrunner for the series. Now, if you remember, the series is going to be on Netflix, and so is the movie, by the way. The new home of Power Rangers is Netflix in general, but they've had a showrunner. They've added a showrunner. And the showrunner in question is Jenny Klein. Her credits include The Thing About Pam, which is an NBC show, which is apparently one of their highest rated comedies or what have you of the last season. So she was a showrunner on that. She also worked on Marvel's Jessica Jones and Cloak and Dagger, and she also worked on Supernatural. So those three later credits. Oh, and also I forgot. How could I forget? The Witcher as well. Yep. She's worked on The Witcher. Mm-hmm. So those credits encourage me and kind of give you, again, they don't spell out the tone, but they give you a good sense that we are taking things a little bit higher in terms of maturity level here with this. I don't think it's going to be The Witcher, and I don't think we're going to see naked people running around and people his heads getting lobbed off and things of that nature. But you know what I mean when I say a little bit more mature. And so before I get to, and the report states that she will work with Jonathan Entwistlle on the series. So Jonathan Entwistlle is essentially, and I hate using this comparison because everybody uses this comparison whenever there's an executive of this nature involved, but I'm going to use it because what else am I going to say? Jonathan Entwistlle is essentially the Kevin Feige of the new Power Rangers universe.
Yep.
And she will work with him and alongside him to craft because if he's working on the show and the movie, he can't be there everyday, micromanaging the day-to-day workings of the show. He's got to do the stuff on the movie side. So before I get to some of Jonathan Entwistle's quotes, what do you think of this hire?
Yeah, so the first thing that stands out to me about the hire is that she kind of has a wide range of work behind her, like you all just stated. So it's not just one thing that she had, right? So definitely she has a lot more mature writing, mature writing background, I should say.
Yeah.
So that stands out to me. You know what? It's great to see a showrunner attached to it too. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did feel the frustration a little bit of no news, but maybe no news sometimes is news. What that sort of thing.
Means they're doing something.
Yeah, we knew this was gonna take time. They're crafting a whole cinematic universe. So it's great to see that the balls are rolling. The wheels are turning a little bit. So all systems go, and I love that Jonathan Entwistle's still attached to it. So I guess that was good confirmation, Adam.
Yeah. I think the important thing is we have to remember that as much as life is starting to get back to some form of normalcy, the impact of the pandemic is still hitting certain areas of Hollywood and industry in general, and so a lot of things got backed up in production wise, and I'm sure the pandemic slowed the process of this, especially when you're crafting an entire universe. Like the example that I can think of to kind of sort of calm another fan base down is, recently we found out from Mark Guggenheim that the pandemic severely slowed down the progress of the HBO Max Green Lantern show. And as of 2 weeks ago, when he recorded an interview, he was writing the season finale. So, that just goes to show that, both of these projects, both Power Rangers and Green Lantern, were announced in 2019.
Yeah.
And here we are. So, I think, and it's the reason I point out that it's similar is because the HBO Max Green Lantern thing is also trying to reimagine and craft an entire universe with more than one character. So, there's a lot of parallels there.
Yep.
Hopefully there'll be a green guy or a girl in the Power Rangers
please
show as well at some point. But so it's encouraging. Like you said, it's very encouraging to see that things are still happening. And again, it's as much as I'd like to see, the first episode of this show yesterday.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you in terms of wanting to see it. But there's we have to understand that we're dealing with a big machine here. That it's not. Let me snap my fingers and here's the show. So but it's good that things are moving, and we've now got a showrunner. So the next step will be, I'm assuming they'll be writing if they haven't started already, the show, and maybe we'll hear about some writers, and then eventually casting down the track here. But remember, there's also supposed to be, to sort of tide us over in between the new show, the new universe and movie. There's also supposed to be a 30th season that is going to wrap things up of the original incarnation.
The reunion. Yeah.
So I would venture to say that optimistically, I think cameras will start rolling on the new show probably, or we'll probably see it in 2024. It's late 2024 is my guess when we start seeing the fruits of this labor, just because of, the way I see it. I mean, it makes sense to me, at least from a business standpoint. Let's do the swan song of the original 30 years in 2023. Have all the focus on that, sell all the toys, sell all the merchandise, and then in 2024, hey, you want more Power Rangers? Here's the new stuff. Right. So that's how I see it shaking out. I could be wrong. I don't have any inside information. Nobody's told me anything. If they want to tell me things, if my DMs
tell us,
are
Adam.
open, they can whatever. But yeah, so that's how I see it shaking out. And speaking of Jonathan Entwistlle, he dropped a couple of one tease, but he echoed his excitement. He said, and I'm quoting his tweet here, so effing, excited, happy to have Jenny Klein on our new Ranger series. You should all be very excited. And then later that day, he came back online and announced the following. The new Power Rangers show that Jenny Klein and I are working on is firmly part of the new cinematic universe. Can't wait to share more information with everyone soon. Maybe some familiar faces in a brand new universe. And then he posted a GIF of the original Mighty Morphin team with Zordon in the command center.
That'll do it.
So now a lot of the internet being internet was like, does this mean the originals are going to have cameos in the thing? Well, I mean, it could mean that, or follow my line of thinking here. It might mean a reboot of Mighty Morphin in this new universe. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, first things first, I always love like when creators come out and, they're appreciative of the person that's attached to a project. I think that was very kind and cool of Jonathan Entwistlle to kind of welcome Jenny, granted on the internet, but still, I think it was great to see. And I think I said it on our first show that we did, or the last show that we did, that it's, to me, it doesn't really matter who it is that's attached to a project, as long as they love and understand the franchise and IP that they're doing. I think everything is going to be fine. But as far as, the nostalgia aspect goes, I think it can go both ways. I think it would be cool to see some of those OGs back, and if they're willing and wanting to do it, I think it would be cool. But at the same time, when you're starting to craft your own cinematic universe, you got to pave your own path. Eventually you got to take some risks, right? The next thing we're going to talk about later in the show tried to do it too, and granted, they do a nice little nod for diehard fans at the end of the movie. But but all in all, yeah, I mean, Amy Jo Johnson is still flying around. She's under the nostalgia radar. So who knows? I mean, I think it would be cool, especially in this day and age of nostalgia that we're in. If some of them want to come back for a scene or two and interact with them on the street or something, I don't know.
Even if they're one of the parents, you can get creative with it. The parents of one of the kids or whatever. That'd be cool. But
that's all you got to do.
I took it as more, and again, if it's not a recreation of Mighty Morphin, that's fine. If they want to try something new, go for it. I'm along for the ride. But that to me says it's a version of, or inspired by Mighty Morphin.
Yeah,
it is more what I take from that gift than, hey, we're bringing the band back, because if you're bringing the band back together, that's just the quantum continuum, which I want to see. But that would just be that, right? So
that's clearly you can't bring back everybody, Adam. Now,
well, certainly not. Unfortunately, you can't bring back the Yellow Ranger because the actors passed away.
Can't bring back the red one too, apparently.
Well, I mean that's still under investigation, trial, whatever you want to call it. And then it doesn't look like Jason David Frank is going to come back, because he's got his own own Legend of the White Dragon thing that he's trying to do, which I'm excited for, because it's let's be honest, it's Power Rangers with a slightly different Sheena. Let's call it what it is. That's what it is. He's just changed a few names, and I'm not knocking it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
But he's changed some things around so he doesn't get sued. I mean, let's call that what it was,
Yeah.
So but I'm excited. There's movement. If they are going the rebooted Mighty Morphin route, then I would suggest the Boom Studios comic books. That to me, that's a great sort of source material that you could look into. But things are moving. That's the important thing. We have a showrunner. She seems very capable with some of the other projects she's done, and Jonathan Entwistlle is a fan of Power Rangers. I remember Boom Studios did they did a big sort of promotion for the hardcover, the omnibuses, where they had the original cast sign the omnibuses, and they did like a Kickstarter thing, which we apparently sold out the first day, which was incredible.
That's awesome.
But Jonathan Entwistlle was like, retweeting and liking the posts, and I think Hasbro and Boom actually send him copies, so that he's a fan. And again, it's not always a prerequisite, but it's an added bonus when the person that's shepherding the IP actually enjoys the property and isn't just doing it for it's more than just a job when it's that. And I, like, for example, something that you've seen, I haven't seen yet, but the Elvis movie that you saw.
Yep.
Baz Luhrmann is an Elvis fan, and apparently from everything I've heard, that comes through. So it helps when the creator of the new version is a fan of the original IP. So, but we're excited, clearly, and we will continue to keep you updated with actual information as it happens, and not something from a scooper who has so far been horribly wrong. And yet it's amazing, because we see this in the DC space and apparently not in the Power Rangers. I don't understand why people believe individuals who are more wrong than right half the 3/4 of the time. So it baffles my mind.
What's your favorite account other than the Ric Flair account? Come on, Adam.
Come on.
Come on.
I can start a podcast based on that Ric Flair account. That's human. But anyway, but yeah, so we'll keep you posted, and more news is forthcoming according to Jonathan Entwistlle. So we'll stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
So what we'll do now is we'll take a quick break, and on the other side of it, we'll come back and review 2017's Power Rangers. So stay tuned. I'm your host, Adam.
And I'm the Emerald Enthusiast.
And for all your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows.
That includes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Masters of the Universe, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Comics universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast.
All right here on YouTube and Podbean. From the first podcast and vidcast to the last. Welcome back. And as promised, Nick and I are here to talk 2017's Power Rangers that was brought to us by Saban and Lionsgate. And it was an attempted reboot of the Power Rangers franchise. Was directed by Dean Israelite. I thought it was overall, it kept the core essential elements of what the Power Rangers concept is intact, and tried to modernize it, make it, and this is going to sound weird, given that the show had aliens and monsters and stuff. But I think this movie tried to key in more so on the alien aspect of the Power Ranger concept, if that makes sense at all.
No, trust me, I have a lot of thoughts on this movie. You know that, Adam. But just on that note, it was interesting, because I think conceptually at the time I didn't quite grasp what they were going for. Like, there was a lot of rumors and stuff at the time going on that Zordon might have been a Red Ranger, and they were gonna be in space for part of it. Rita was a Green Ranger. So they were going to kind of lean into more of the alien history aspect, like you just said. I didn't quite grasp it at the time, but now looking back on it, it really was just really fresh and unique. And I don't think maybe we appreciated it at the time, but I think they went for something, and I think we had to appreciate that at least. But yeah.
What I liked about that was that whole opening sequence. I love that.
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it adds another layer, like to
Mm-hmm.
the history between Rita and Zordon. The fact that
Yep.
they were once both Rangers
Mm-hmm.
and teammates, and then she betrayed him. Um, it just adds another dynamic to their combative, relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole opening epilogue, if you will, taking place in the days of the dinosaurs, and you see that, and that's how they give you the explanation for why the Zords are dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right,
Yeah.
like makes sense.
Yep.
And I like this idea that Zordon was a ranger. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
he's not just a advisor or a talking head anymore.
Yeah.
He's speaking from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I did this, and I know what it takes. I know how hard it is. I know what it is to fail. So again, seeing him in that role early on adds another layer to his character.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the original show, which we both love, and we'll have it's not a knock, but it was just, all right, there's this head in the tube, and he's
Yep.
telling these kids they got to be Rangers, and off we go. And
Yeah.
and there's no, like, it's like, why? How? Like, how did you get these Zords? Why are they dinosaurs? I don't know. I can't remember if that's it was ever explained.
I don't think it was.
Why they were dinosaurs. It's just, oh, kids like dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jurassic Park, 1993. Hey, let's move. But so the explanation, like they again, I'm going to use a sort of comparison. They Chris Nolanized in a way the Power Rangers concept of let's explain everything now.
Mm-hmm.
Explaining the process to you. But I did like that opening. I wanted more of that. I wanted more of that history. I could.
Yeah.
You know how remember Man of Steel had like 20 minutes on Krypton?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And that was arguably, like, you could argue that's the best stuff of the movie.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that I like Man of Steel, but
No.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
people
No.
argue.
Yeah. That's very fair though.
I could have taken 20 minutes of that or half an hour of
Oh yeah.
classic Zordon and Reed. Like I would have shown, like, instead of the montage in the command center,
Mm-hmm.
that you could barely see via the viewing screen.
Yeah.
I would have shown like 30 minutes of, a quick epilogue, like
Mm-hmm.
of the team sort of fighting a battle together, the betrayal. I mean, I know they gave us the betrayal or the end result of the betrayal, but I would have liked, a 20 to 30 minute encapsulation of that. That would have been cool because I really like that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Zordon in a last ditch effort before he's, I guess killed is the word, even though he's not.
Yeah.
He hides the power coins
Mm-hmm.
in the like basically in the earth in the the canyon or what would be the canyon, and there they are, instead of, oh, I have, again, this movie is a lot more of taking the new crop of kids on a hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
Then here I'm going to give you these coins.
Yeah.
And you're going to do this. I mean, he wanted them to do it, but they had to make the decision of, they did it in the old show too, but it was more of a, we found these,
Mm-hmm.
let's explore what they are. And then, they had to decide more than once, are we going to do this? And so I like all these aspects.
Mm-hmm.
What was your take on the opening the history. I mean, you mentioned there were rumors about it, but now having seen it and having time to sit on it, did you like it?
Yeah, I did like it. It was more ultra realistic, like you just said too, right? Like it's, why would Zordon know so much about all this stuff that, we're being told, right? It was obviously because he had a team at one point. He failed that team, and now here's this new and up and coming team, that kind of wants to take it over again, and he's a little selfish, and there's kind of this overlying plot of that, he agrees to like let them be Rangers, but he kind of has his hidden agenda throughout the movie, and then when you get to like that third act, which I'm sure we'll get to, it really does hit, at least for me. But
Yeah.
I took the whole aspect, like you just said too, about the power coins just being in the mines, and then the teenagers, as we know, they find them. In the show they were almost like chosen, right? They weren't really, they didn't really find them. It was almost like predetermined. Whereas
they
this
were
show,
literally plucked out of the juice bar. They're like, Zordon's like, Alpha, give me teenagers.
Here's 5 random teenagers. Yeah, go.
Nowadays, you see that on the news. It's a little weird. Like, scoop me up some teenagers. Like, wait a minute, is Ezra Miller Zordon? And anyway, Ezra Miller and Zordon confirmed. No, I'm kidding.
Let's
he's
not
not
go.
going to be the Flash for much longer. I'll tell you that much. Anyway.
It's not looking too good. But whereas kind of in the movie, it's you get the sense that they either, I think one of them knows each other, and then one of them kind of like is like the new girl in school. But like, I dig the whole they're meeting each other for the first time and they get roped into this thing. I mean, then they kind of have to get along, but they may not like each other. But in the end, they kind of bond. And then they literally become Power Rangers. I think that's the aspect that I dug the most out of it.
I'm glad you brought it, because this is where I was going next. So you segued perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tenets of the show is again, find me teenagers with attitude.
Yeah,
which is great. But I love the original cast to death. But none of those 5 were what you like. My nephew is a teenager with attitude that I'd like to, on occasion, give him a back when he thinks he knows too much. Give him a back. But none of those 5 had any attitude whatsoever. They were the nicest kids in the world. They were like if you could pluck a parent's ideal child, here are the 5. So none of them had attitude. These ones here in this reboot did have issues, did have attitude, and were problematic. I mean, 3 of them meet in detention.
Yep.
And it's kind of like almost like a Breakfast Club situation, which I thought was a cool parallel. John Hughes, the whole high school thing.
Yep.
That was cool. And then the other 2, I mean, they go to that school apparently, but never go. And they all have their own problems. And so I finally feel like we finally got in this franchise. The promise was delivered of, here are teenagers with attitude. Now watch them become heroes.
Yep.
Because some of them at the very beginning, when you see them doing certain things, they're quite unlikable. Like I mean, Jason pulling the prank.
Yep.
Which I assume is on the other team's football team or whatever, right? The other school's football team. I mean, okay, it's nothing terrible.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of douchey. And then he gets into a car accident and ruins his whole future as a potential football star. So I mean, he threw his life away. His father was kind of right. Kimberly, I mean, took suspicious pictures of her best friend and sent them to the boyfriend, and they got passed around at school, and it's like, man, the Kimberly from 1993 would never do that.
She would never do that.
Like, never. I mean, but so there's that. So those 2, there's a little bit more troubled situations associated with them. Uh, with Trini and Zach, they're having more problems in terms of at home. So like, Zach has a sick mother that he has to take care of, and that oftentimes he misses school because he's so worried about her and taking care of her and dealing with that. And then Trini does not conform to what her parents expect of her. And throughout later in the film, in a really pivotal scene, she reveals that she is gay, and she has not come out to her parents because they expect a certain thing, and she doesn't think that they would be accepting of that. So, and then there's Billy, who he's not. I mean, by nature, he's not a problem child. He's not doing things to be disruptive, but he is on the spectrum, and that causes him, struggles to fit in, to adjust at school, and and so we're seeing that, which I thought this entire cast I thought was spectacular. I thought they were all phenomenal.
Yeah.
But making Billy a person with a disability and putting him on the spectrum, I thought was ingenious.
Yep.
I thought it's like another layer of representation that I think is important, and you got to give it to the Power Rangers franchise. They've always been at the forefront of diversity and representation. So good on them for doing that. But I thought Billy, it was still very much like his smarts and his intelligence was still very much there, but it was an added dimension, a uniqueness that they with that change that I thought was brilliant. So what did you think of like this aspect of finally? I mean, you touched on it a bit, but finally getting teenagers with attitude, and what did you think of the Billy aspect of it all?
Yeah, so I mean, you said it perfectly. I think this cast was just remarkable, like all of them. I mean, like how they hit the nail on the head with them was outstanding. It's funny because I thought the Billy character was the best part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
And he really is the emotional crutch of the movie, or the crux of the movie, excuse me. Obviously in the original Mighty Morphin show, he's the smartest guy on the team. Whereas, in this one, it's a more modernized take where, he's on the spectrum and the team almost has to look out for him, right? Because he's very impulsive. He wants to be the Ranger the most out of all of them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary, right? Because you don't know what he's going to do or how he's going to react. So it's almost like not only is it like save the world, it's protect Billy almost is like what their goal is. And then rightfully so later on in the movie. But yeah, I think like the whole teenagers with attitude thing is hit on the nail on the head with this movie too. It's very these kids just happen to meet in detention, which is fine. That's usually how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's very realistic. It's a more darker approach to it. Like you said too, Jason's an athlete. He does his career away. Kimberly's the popular girl in school that gets her reputation tarnished. Billy's on the spectrum. He gets bullied. Zach has his own personal family thing going on. He kind of secludes everybody in his life. And then, here's Trini, who's obviously maybe the most complex out of the whole group. So there was a lot, there's a lot of meat on the bone with these characters. And honestly, it's we're going to talk about it, I'm sure. But there is like the one scene in the movie that I truly think is one of like the best scenes in just Power Rangers history. Was you get why everybody is the way they are.
Yeah, I loved the one of the scenes that the segments, if you will, that really I thought was so well done was the discovery of the power coins and the command center.
Yeah,
like that was quite. It was a big action set piece because with the mine exploding and them being underwater and the whole 9 yards. I mean, another car crash. There's two car crashes in this thing. The beginning and then that, and it's like this is like the Smallville, like the Smallville drinking game. Because remember, there was always a car crash in Smallville. So it's like, wait a minute, what is it? Were the creators watching Smallville when they wrote this? But the whole idea of it and the discovery of the power coins, making them sort of bonding with the kids and giving them the powers, and so that they're enhanced when they have their armor on, but they're still stronger and faster than a normal teenager because they've been exposed to the coins and they have the coins around them at all times. And we see, once they have the coins and they go back to school or try to, you see their strength and their abilities kind of shining through. But the idea that, the command center is essentially an alien ship and that it's underwater or deep underwater, and it's almost got like another layer, a hidden layer.
It's Atlantis.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. It is kind of. It's a good way to put it. But I just like that whole the alien aspect of it all. Was really cool, and it's like, who's gonna find that? Like, unless you're Rita or potentially Lord Zed or whoever, who in the hell's gonna stump? Like, okay, the Rangers did only because they found the coins.
Yeah.
But what average human being is gonna stumble on that command center?
It's gonna be very hard.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like so I thought it was ingenious. Like very few people can breach this command center. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought the meeting of, when they met Alpha 5 and eventually Zordon, I thought that was very, it had first contact elements. And again, it harkened back to, it gave me a little bit of Man of Steel vibes when Lois meets Clark for the first time, So I had those kind of vibes there as well. I really like the look of Alpha 5. It was familiar yet unique. Like they kept they kept the general design but made it their own.
Yep.
And then I love what they did with Zordon here. I really did. I thought that was it looked very unique visually, and just the fact that it's I gotta say, the fact that it's Billy. It's
Billy Cranston. Yep.
Yeah. Because I'm getting confused with the character.
Billy and a Billy.
which was named after him.
Yep.
So, but the fact that it is him as Zordon is quite clever because he did a lot of the voices for the monsters in the original show. And that he was able to come back and do this, I thought was very cool. And it added a lot of gravitas to the proceedings, having him be a part of it. I thought.
Agreed.
But yeah, it's so I like the whole discovery of the coins in the command center. I thought that was very, again, it's them finding it, stumbling upon it, and then discovering, which is different than, I'm going to teleport you here and tell you what I want you to do. It's the way I compare it to is, it's like Superman the movie, where it was just a matter of time before the crystal called out to Clark, and he was drawn to the fortress. And then Man of Steel, where it's a discovery. So it's a similar dynamic with the two versions of the Power Rangers, right? So I like that. But what did you think of once they have the coin? there's the whole segment of the training montage, because the cat Zordon's talking about, you gotta, once they get that flashy quick, you could barely see it, history of the Power Rangers. Again, they really should have expected, this thing should have been,
I know,
2 hours and 20 minutes, 2.5 hours. But release the extended cut.
Release
Is there one? I don't even know.
Yeah. Release the Israelite cut, I guess.
Yeah, the Israelite cut. Yeah, exactly. Restore the Israelite verse. I'm going to start harassing Jonathan Entwistlle now on Twitter.
Please don't.
No, I won't, because I'm actually excited for what's coming.
Yeah, I know.
But so once we get the montage out of the way, and you realize these, for whatever reason, they can't morph. And so Zordon's like, well, put them in the pit and train them anyway.
Yeah. Because
we don't have time to waste. I know they did it in quick spurts, but I like the training montage. What did you think of it?
Yeah, real quick. I thought Zordon's the way, like you said too, the way they presented Zordon was pretty cool. Like the way that he can move his head, like across the whole ship and things like that. It makes it so cool and
as
personable,
just,
you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to just floating head that just talks, and you gotta have to look up, you know, and you know. But yeah, dude, I thought the training montages were awesome because again, it's very realistic that. Okay, so how are these 5 random teenagers just gonna randomly know how to fight, even if they are just fighting like random putties, right? Like, how are they gonna know, unless they're Zordon and Alpha knew that they had trained martial arts skills prior to grabbing them beforehand? Which, how are you really gonna know that? So I think that it was just these 5 people just get plucked into this thing. Well, they don't get plucked, you know. Again, they find this discovery, and then the choice is for them. Do they want to go through with it or do they not? So that's why I think that they chose to stick around. They got to learn how to fight because it's they're all looking for a purpose, right? So that's at the core why I really appreciated what it's like it's like, do I learn how to fight? Maybe, sure, if I'm under the right circumstance, maybe, but it's another thing to get plucked into this world-ending threat, and you have to fend for yourself. So I dug that whole aspect of it.
In terms of the fighting aspect, I'll say it's a different, because I've actually trained in karate for 20 years.
Yeah,
it's a different aspect, and again, luckily I've never had to, encounter something where I'm on the street and I have to use anything that I've learned. But it's a different dynamic when you're doing it as a performance for a crowd of people, and it's either I defend myself and take this guy down, or something bad happens. So it really is I think they really captured that. We've got to do this, and there's an urgency to it. It's not just for it's for sport, or it's for show, or it's for this, this and that. And so I like that it was, in the original show, when they first fight the putties, they already, they have a set of moves that they are already familiar. Kimberly has her gymnastic background that helps her. Jason and Zach, Jason has his karate. Zach has the hip hop keto thing that he does. Billy's the only one that sort of and dodges because he just
that's true.
Living. So, but yeah, they all have a pre-existing sort of base. Whereas these kids are like, hey, we just found these things.
Yeah, we're just kids, man.
Like even when they wake up after the accident, they find the coins.
Yeah.
Jason wakes up and all of a sudden does this, and he's like, and the way he looks, because he's in a fighting stance, and he looks and he's like, why did I do that? Like so yeah, it was nice to see that they had to learn, and it was Alpha really that sort of kind of showed them the ropes, and was explaining things to them. And then you could see that at this point in the movie, they're still not cohesive because they don't really know each other, and they're getting frustrated by being in this pit all the time. Training. And Zach and Jason kind of have a disagreement. They start arguing, they start fighting, and Billy gets upset and gets in between them, and that's when, through his emotion of caring for both of his friends, is when he morphs and has access to the armor.
Mm.
Because the armor has bonded, like Zordon explains that the armor has bonded with you. All you have to do is call it forth, and it'll right. So because he was able to access that emotion for his two friends, he was able to morph, and he's the first one to do it. Which is cool that it was him, because he's the one that most wants to be the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're all like, oh my god, that's awesome. And then Zordon's like, how did you do it? And he couldn't explain how he did it. He's like, okay, get out, you're not ready. And
Mm-hmm.
Zordon's pissed off and kicks them out. And then Jason and Zordon have a moment where he overhears Zordon talking with Alpha about, I need them to open the Morphin grid so that I can come through the and lead the portal and lead the team.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jason assumes that the only reason Zordon's doing any of this, which I don't think is a fair assumption. I think Zordon really, at his core, is more concerned about stopping Rita than coming through the portal is just the added bonus. But his true intent is to stop Rita. Jason doesn't see it that way, and they have an argument. And there's this whole thing about leadership and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then we get to a real, I think, is a key component of this film, and where things really sort of take a turn for the team, because they have that bonding, like, campfire moment where they all decide to open up and reveal sort of a part of themselves to each other, to get to know each other, in the hopes that if Billy's emotions are what led him to morph, if we open up, maybe we'll be able to do it too. And so they start telling each other, a secret of theirs. And that's when we learn about, Jason feels the weight of his mistake, and he doesn't outright say it, but you could tell from things that happen in the movie that he doesn't want to be looked down upon or feel like he let his father down.
Mm-hmm.
Trini, that's when she reveals that she's a lesbian. Billy talks about being on the spectrum. Zach talks about his mother, and ultimately worrying about, because she's ill, that she's not going to be here for long, and the idea that his concern is being alone. Kimberly didn't want to talk at first about her situation, but she later opens up to Jason about the incident that you spoke about, sending the picture of her friend in a compromising position, and then the fallout from that. So that's when they really start to become not only a team but friends.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the moment that you were talking about in terms of?
Yeah, God, that campfire scene is so good. Just because, like, it's Power Rangers to me. It goes into, like, it felt just very raw, real, and honest. That, like, it's like you said so beautifully. It's the moment where they became Power Rangers, right? Because it's them opening up to each other, and especially me, who you know has gone and goes to a lot of bonfires. That stuff does happen. And people do get closer through that kind of stuff. So it's just one of those human bonding experiences, right? Where it's the whole movie was they don't know each other and they have to know each other because they got to save the world. So I just dug that, it took that moment to bring them closer. And then we find out, like you said too, that some people still don't want to, because they just got so much going on in their life that they don't want to open up to people. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about life, is that, once you open up to somebody, it opens up the world to you almost. So I thought that's what was beautiful about that scene.
Yeah, it was really good. Before we continue on with the Rangers themselves, I think we get a segue for a minute and talk about Rita, played by Elizabeth Banks. What did you make of Rita, about how she was still on Earth, her reemergence, her plan, the fact that she eats gold, which is a little disturbing?
Yeah, PG-13,
But what
right?
did you think about that? I mean, we talked about her being a ranger, which we
Mhm.
like. But what about the other stuff? Give me a.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first things first, I thought that's utterly hilarious that one of the things that's on her mind is she wants Krispy Kremes.
Well,
Kudos
that's
to
because the Zeo crystal is there.
yeah. Kudos to her on that one. Yeah. So
Who wouldn't want Krispy Kreme, by
who
the way?
wouldn't want Krispy Kremes, right? Yes. Um, the Rita character is an interesting thing for me because I thought Elizabeth Banks was I don't know, maybe not an inspired choice, but it was an interesting choice at the time. I mean, like great actress,
Oh
sure
yeah.
she can pull it off. Has the look. They definitely went for something different too. You
Oh
know
yeah.
how her whole outfit is green, so oh, was she the Green Ranger? You know that kind of sort of thing. Um, it was kind of a comical approach, but it was a more darker approach too. Like I dug the fact that she kind of systematically goes after them.
Yeah.
Like the scene where she goes after Trini in her house, I thought was absolutely terrifying and kind of,
Yeah, it
and it
was actually
does,
pretty creepy. Yeah.
yeah, and it sets the stage for like their battle with them. I mean, yeah, so all in all, a little comical in the third act, but that's okay too, because that's Rita. That is Rita.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know?
there was some stuff that was over the top with like
Yeah,
the eating of the gold and that stuff.
yeah,
But there was also times when she was genuinely frightening
yeah,
and disturbing. And kudos to the makeup team because
yeah.
how you can make Elizabeth Banks look creepy and ugly, I mean, intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
um, is astounding because she's stunning
Yep.
in actuality. And yeah, I'm going to do it. First, Elizabeth
Live
Banks,
on air.
it's on the list. Yeah, Um, so that's not the last time I'll be doing this, but so kudos to the makeup department and all that stuff for making that happen. And the reason why she's absorbing gold is to resurrect Goldar
Mm-hmm.
so that he can get the Zeo crystal for her. Which, by in and of itself, introducing the Zeo crystal so early on
Yeah.
and tying it into the Mighty Morphin period, I think is very, very cool
Mm-hmm.
because it's sort of paying homage to multiple versions of the franchise,
Yep.
and I like that. It's a melding of the two, which is really interesting. Um, but yeah, so I agree with everything you said on Rita. We'll talk about Goldar when he finally shows up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of my few issues with
Mm-hmm.
the film is Goldar himself. But um, back to the Rangers, you once Trini, the aforementioned moment where Trini is attacked, like you mentioned, uh, she goes to the Rangers and like Rita attacked me in my home. Like
Yep.
we have to stop her. And so they take a vote because again they still can't morph,
Yep.
and they all, despite not having access to their armor, say let's go get her. And they arm themselves, street violence. Like they've got chains, they've got a baseball bat, they've got weaponry. Not that it does anything against Rita,
Yeah.
but they go there and they get, of course, Rita has the advantage, as she should at this point.
Mm-hmm.
She basically ties them all up and she interrogates them all because she knows that one of them knows where the Zeo crystal is. And of course, the one that knows, because we saw him earlier in the film, kind of triangulating where once Zordon starts talking about where this Zeo crystal could be, it's Billy. And the way she pries it out of Billy is, I'm going to start threatening your friends. Either you tell me where this thing is, or the first one I'm going to kill is Zach.
Yeah.
So he, to save Zach, begrudgingly tells her. And you think, okay, she's going to walk away and let them go, and that'll be her ultimate downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you watch, you think she's going to let them all go, and eventually they're going to come together. But in the way and they kind of did that, but the way they did it was very shocking because she's like, Zordon would think less of me if I didn't kill at least one of you.
Mm.
And she, kills Billy. And there was a period where I'm like, did this movie have the, to use a wrestling terminology of this phrase, the testicular fortitude to kill one of the Rangers in movie number 1? Like, and there's a point where I didn't expect him to come. I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect him to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're carrying him to the command center, and I can't remember what the song was that was
Stand
playing.
By Me, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was a great song choice.
Great song choice.
By the way.
Yep.
I was actually getting emotional watching it.
Yeah.
I remember. But that's how much you come to relate to Bill. And to be fair, to Billy especially, but all the care. I was able to relate, and I like throughout the course of the movie, because they spend so much time on the characters and their journey towards becoming Power Rangers. I was able to grow and care about these characters on a deeper level than just these are the heroes and I have to care about them. So like, and again, I don't want to piss anybody off and knock. If you love it, you love it, and that's great. But it's like when BVS killed Superman.
Yeah.
When they killed Superman in movie 2, when we just got introduced to him, right? I'm getting emotional because I'm supposed to, because it's an obligation, because he's one of the main characters. And the reason I'm caring is because I have being a comic fan for, so many years, I have the pre-existing relationship with this character. So I'm predisposed to getting emotional. A general audience member who doesn't read the comics, who doesn't care, is just watching it because I know Superman, I know Batman, and they like, why are you going to care? Like, if you don't build it up properly, there's less of an emotional impact. What I'm trying to point out is I think this did a great way of building to that moment so that when they actually do it, it's like, holy crap, did they do it? Whereas, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but there was a period where during the BBS trailers, you got a sense of, oh my God, they're going to kill Superman.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was like, really, they're going to do it this early?
Yep.
And you were kind of dreading it. It's like, why this early, And so I think the way they did it here was perfect, because even though it was one movie, they spent so much time getting us to care about Billy and the other characters. And so that it has extra weight when they do it. And so anyway, back on point. They bring Billy back to the command center. Jason's pleading with Zordon, help him. Can't you do anything? And Zordon's like, there are certain things that even I can't do. So then they start bonding over, they start grieving over Billy. And each member of the team basically says he was willing to sacrifice himself for all of us. And we'd all they each admit that they'd all do the same for each other. And then the Morphin grid starts going nuts. And, Zordon can feel the ability to come through the portal and reemerge as a full being. And everything goes black, and Alpha says, well, he's coming through the Morphin grid. And then the lights go back up, and Zordon's still on the screen, and it's like, what? And Alpha's like, why didn't you come through? It's like, because only one can come through.
Yep.
And Zordon sacrificed his ability to be amongst the living, the living again, to save Billy, to resurrect Billy. And that's because he saw that finally, like these kids cared about something so much that they were finally able to come together. And I to me, that is the best conceit that this movie could have accomplished, is that to get them to unify for each other, as opposed to having to do this, or it'd be cool, it'd be superheroes, that being the unifying factor makes them a stronger team. And this is the moment you believe, okay, this is a family, these are friends, to borrow from Vin Diesel, this is a family, damn it. So I love that moment. I thought it was great. What did you think?
Yeah, that's the moment to me that really, really does hit. It's because it's sometimes it really is through tragedy and through loss that people do come together. And sometimes that brings people closer together. So I dug that. It was unfortunate that it took a loss at the time, to really bring them all together. Then here's Zordon, who has a chance to accomplish, the one thing on his agenda, which was he wants to come back so he can stop Frida. And, maybe he cares about, helping the team, but maybe he just wants to stop Rita, right? So it's the choice too that I think that hits, where it's, he sacrificed his ability, Zordon sacrificed his ability to come back for a second chance to stop Rita because he failed the first time. And he's putting that in the hands of these random teenagers that failed themselves, right? So it's like, what does he do in that moment, right? Does he let the Morphin Grid bring Billy back? Or does he let the Morphin Grid bring him back and kind of take over Jason's role? So, and it was a powerful moment, where he's like, there can only be one Red Ranger, right? And he's like, this is your team now. It's that kind of hit for me. So,
it's the acknowledgement of, okay, you're the leader. You're the and what I like about this whole movie is really there's character growth in terms of our heroes. Everybody involved, including Zordon, and that's really cool because in the show, Zordon is pretty much Zordon throughout. In the Boom Studios comics, there is a lot of character growth for Zordon, and there's backstory, which is fantastic. That I hope they use in the rebooted universe going forward. But in terms of just the show, Zordon was the first time you see Zordon and the last time you see Zordon, that's Zordon. Like there was no, so there was character growth even for him here. And then the morphing scene finally happens because they're finally unified, they're finally together. And I like the fact that it's because you knew they were going to say it's Morphin time.
Yeah.
But, and just because of my, my past history with the show, I was expecting, all right, Jason's going to get up there and for no reason start screaming it's Morphin. But I like the fact that it was more of a quiet confidence. And it wasn't him screaming at the screen, it's... I'm not going to do it because I don't know Morpher. I used to. I got carried away. But if I did, I would have done it. But so I think there's a quiet confidence when he does it, and I like that delivery of it. I thought it was on point for this iteration of Jason.
That's a good point,
if you will. And the way it was done, I thought was very cool. And I gotta say, now we can actually talk about the suit, the armor. I like the way they looked. I thought like, does it have a bit of Iron Man in it? Yeah.
Symbiote.
But do I like Iron Man? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like him being the de facto Uncle Ben, but I do like Iron Man, and I like the way he looks. And and what I thought was, it's okay. If you're going to take the Power Ranger concept, can you make it look familiar while also modernizing with today's superheroic standards? That's what this iteration of it was. Like, you still had the diamond sort of where on there. Let me try and see. Hold on.
It's under belt around that area. Yeah. Yep.
Like, you see the diamond shapes here. You still have that. I feel like a teacher. You should,
Yeah.
Not
class, pay attention.
All respect to the teachers, but I wouldn't be able to sit there and explain anything. I'd be like, Zord, get these kids out of my sight.
If Kimberly was your teacher, you'd have an A in that class, though.
Oh, yeah. Geez.
Wow.
Anyway, I'd get myself in trouble. No, let's not go there. But yeah, no. So they kept that pattern, like in the chest area. But you know, like, look, folks, for anybody that was upset with the armor that it didn't look exactly like the, I'm going to break it to you right now in advance. So be prepared, because I doubt I could eat crow in about a year's time, and if I do, so be it. I'll come on this show and do it, but I highly doubt that the new rebooted series and movie are going to put the actors in spandex. Gone are the days of the spandex Power Ranger suits. Like once the 30th season is done, and you know the Saban Tokusatsu combination era is done, we're not going to see the spandex anymore. I don't think so. So get used to that. So they were never going to do it in this iteration, and I thought what they came up with would look cool. Was identifiably Power Rangers, but also modern. What did you take on the costume?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, actually. I think it fit, you know, like you said, what they were going for. I think it fit the modernization of its 2017 Power Rangers. I thought that was pretty unique too, and it was unique. You know, the whole thing was it was supposed to be this fresh interpretation of Power Rangers. I agree. You know, probably them just being in spandex for 2 hours probably wouldn't look right. But it's funny because the armor, the Power Ranger suits, are actually the critique that I have of the movie, and it's not of the suits themselves; it's the screen time.
Oh,
The
I
suits
agree.
themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
know, like it's like I wish we got more of that because they look so cool, and I wanted to see them fighting it a little more.
We got about 35 minutes of Power Rangers
Yeah,
action.
you know, and that's like the one thing I would change in this movie was maybe give me another sequence or two of them in the suits, but then you kind of have to change the whole story.
In the suits, especially
You
fighting
know,
the putties, because they did have a
yeah,
sequence where they fought that, and that looked really cool.
it
I
did.
love, like when
Yeah,
Jason, and I thought it was clever what they did with the power sword, where he could basically,
yeah,
basically morphs on his hand, in his
yep,
hand. I'm like, that's clever.
yeah,
That's really clever.
yeah.
And yeah, them beating up the putties, I thought was cool. I wish I'd saw more of the suits. I agree with
I
you
know.
100%.
Yeah,
I thought they looked great, though. I think, and when we saw Rita as the Green Ranger, and this is going to be me, you know, old man yelling at Cloud in a little bit. But when we saw Rita in the Green Ranger outfit, I'm like, "Ooh, that looks so good! I can't wait!"
yep.
And then we'll get to my complaint about the end credit scene
Oh,
in a minute. In a bit. So yeah,
yeah,
so I agree with you. I wanted to see more of them in the suits before they got in the Megazord. But the little bit we did get of it, I loved it. Like that
yeah.
whole
It was
sequence with the
awesome.
putties, I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yep.
Um, um, so I like that. The suits looked awesome. Um, and then you know, Rita appears. She tells Goldar, make my monster grow. As it, you know, that was a nice nod to the original show. And then Goldar is literally this. He's like a gold
Big block of gold. Big blob of
statue
gold.
slash eagle slash I don't know what he is.
Yeah.
And this is one of my contentions with the movie. The screen time of the suits you brought up. This is another one. Goldar looked like, I'm sorry, but here's where I got to critique. Goldar looks like crap.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing to me. The idea of Goldar as this humanoid monkey with armor is genius. And you know why it works? You know why it would have worked had they gone with that? You know what told me it would have worked? I'll tell you what told me it would have worked. Planet of the Apes.
That's true.
Did you anybody watch those movies? Because those movies showed me that I can believe an ape is walking around.
With our, yeah, of course.
So why can't you put the ape in armor? Like I know you wanted to change things up, but when some designs are so damn cool, maybe you leave well enough alone, and Goldar was one of them.
Mhm.
Like, change Rita because, look, Rita's design from the show wouldn't have worked in a 2017 context. So I get it. Change it. But Goldar still looks cool. Like, I can watch an episode of Mighty Morphin and look at Goldar, like he's a buffoon. He's a failure. He always fails. But God damn it, he looks menacing.
It's true.
So why didn't they leave it alone? Here we have this gold blob, a big gold blob with wings. I don't know what's going on. I can't even make out what he is. Like, I don't know what he is. I can't tell you what he is. You said it's a gold blob. I don't know. So that's my point of contention, is that he should have been a monkey, or gorilla, or whatever the hell whatever kind of primate Goldar was. Damn it. So I wasn't a fan of the Goldar look. I thought that was a mistake. But anyway, Goldar appears, and the Rangers are like, well, it's time to call the Zords. And they call the Zords, and we get the little, the nod to the theme song.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, now we're hitting.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Now I'm sitting in the seat. I'm like, all right. I remember in the theater, I was going like that. I'm like, all right, here we go. Now we're talking. And look, similar to the suits, and you're saying the screen time, the Zords and the Megazord needed more screen time.
Agreed. I
liked two of the Zords in particular. Three I liked. Two, I thought the design could have been a little better. So I liked the Tyrannosaurus. I liked the Mastodon.
Yep.
And I liked the Pterodactyl.
Agreed.
I thought they all looked good. I thought I'm getting my dinosaur screwed up here.
I know. I think it's Billy's dinosaur.
What the hell is Billy's dinosaur? You know which one it is.
Not Mastodon. No.
Triceratops? Is that
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I couldn't, with his blue Zord, I couldn't make out a Triceratops. It's just me. I tried. I focused on it again last night. I'm like, that don't look like no Triceratops.
Yep.
And Trini's Zord.
Sure. Yeah.
Stagger to me, but
yeah.
So 3 out of the 5 were good. 2 could have been better.
Sure.
But I love the way they moved. I love the whole sequence where they were separate, and there was the part, I think it was Jason with the Tyrannosaurus steps on a Camaro, a yellow, and he's like, "Sorry, Bumblebee," and he throws it and goes up. That made me laugh.
Yeah, that was good.
Because I'm like, okay, that's clever. Considering that the Megazord kind of looks like a Transformer.
Yeah.
And the concept is close, right?
That was clever.
So that's a cool nod. And considering that for a brief time before the Netflix acquisition, Power Rangers was going to be at Paramount, which is the home of Transformers, I think that reference was funny.
Yep.
And also because Hasbro owns both Power Rangers and Transformers. So
yep.
That was so I like the reference. And then there was another nod to the show, and I like the way when they were separate, the Zords and the team worked together. Like there was a time where two times where Kimberly used the other Zords, like grabbed the other Zord and like used them as weapons against Goldar. Like, so she grabbed Billy and threw his Zord and the same with Jason. So I really like that Kimberly got during the Zord battle some time to shine, and that's because when your Zord can fly, that's cool shit.
Yep.
Pardon my language. So she can get that kind of screen time. And there was another nod to the show. I don't know if you noticed, but as Goldar is pushing the each Zord into the pit. Remember in the original show when they lost the original Megazord and it
went down. Yep.
And the Zords went into the pit.
Yep.
That was a nod to that. But in this one, they emerged when they were fully formed, which kind of it was okay. It's twofold issue. I want to give your thumb on this.
Sure.
I like that they emerged out of the fire as the Megazord.
Mm-hmm.
But you couldn't. I wanted to see the combining of them, but we didn't really get to see that.
Yeah.
So, what's your take on the Zord battle before they combine, and then we'll get into the Megazord?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, it's still kind of interesting that they still chose to have like a big Megazord fight just kind of in the middle of like daytime, something like that, with civilians around. Because I would have thought that in 2017 they would have found a way to maybe work around that. Like maybe it takes place in some secluded area where there's no people around.
A desert, yeah.
A desert, I thought it was kind of funny, but that's fine. It's Power Rangers.
It's the Man of Steel argument.
Yeah, we're gonna suspend disbelief on that one. I really dug that the whole concept of the movie was just working together, so they have to work as one in the actual Zord to kind of defeat the villain here. But it's the other critique too is I think maybe we would have needed another scene of them in the Zord to kind of figure that out, because how they can figure that out in like 10 minutes is kind of beyond me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine. So yeah, and again, like the suits, I wish we got more of the Zords because I thought they kicked butt. There you go.
Now, before we talk about the merged Megazord, there was a scene where Jason leaves his Zord to go rescue his father, who the car got again. Another car, Jesus, the car.
Yeah,
the car.
The cars in there.
It's a drinking game, I'll tell you. Anyway, so the car gets toppled over. There's a bit of a fire, and so Jason goes and rescues his father. And there's the moment where he's like, "Give me your hand," and it was a great moment because even though Jason's father doesn't know it's Jason, Jason being able to save his father, it's a bonding moment for at least from Jason's perspective. And in his head, he's like, I haven't failed you. I've overcome my stupid mistake.
Yep. And
I'm a better person because of it. So I like them all. And it also called to mind, remember when the Amazing Spider-Man, when Spider-Man rescued the kid in the car? It kind of called to mind that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great pull. Yeah.
A little bit. So then that was a cool moment. So the Megazord finally combines. And I like the aspect of they all have to work, like you were kind of alluding to. Even fully formed, they have to, work in unison to get it to move, to get it to do what they want.
Yep.
And there's that moment where they're each trying to figure out, okay, what part am I? Like, what? And what was cool about it was you actually see like the Megazord falls to a knee because they haven't figured out how to control it.
Yep.
But then also to your point, which is a little bit of a negative.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we have to work together. Okay. And then literally 2 seconds later, they're up on their feet and they're running and punching and getting. So it's like, wait a minute. This could have used another scene or two.
Mm-hmm.
Like there could have been a Goldar attack. One Goldar attack where they fail, they have to regroup at the command center, talk it through, and then they come back, and that would have been made a lot of difference. But anyway, so I agree with you there.
Yeah,
we could use it. But then I did appreciate the fight. Watching it back a second time, I was able to pick up a lot of things that you missed in the theater, and the nuances and the detail of the fight. I thought you pick up a lot more on it.
Yep.
And I like how two of the ultimate moves to defeat both Goldar and Rita. For Goldar they use the back suplex that the Alpha taught them, and then with Rita, Jason slaps her like he slapped the bully, which was a nice full circle.
That was cool.
Which was a nice full circle moment. And
she goes to the moon.
And she gets frozen on the moon, which is kind of
there. It is.
I don't know if she's going to defrost. We'll never know, but you'd assume that she was going to defrost.
Yeah.
If there was a sequel. But yeah, overall I like the final battle.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fight with Goldar in the end, but I wanted more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the issue. Is that this movie could have done with another half hour tagged onto it.
Yep.
And I'm not one to get picky of with runtime should be whatever the movie needs to tell a story, and I think this movie needed about an extra half hour.
Agree.
But you did mention something about you alluded to the ending, the nice nod cameo to the fans, where as the people emerge from the chaos,
yep,
and they're all admiring the Megazord, we see two familiar faces in Jason David Frank, who was Tommy Oliver, the green, white, red,
yep,
black.
Yeah.
Any other color? Did I miss anything?
I think that's it.
All right.
I think that's it.
All right. Well,
he was never blue that I know of.
He's been a bunch of them.
He was too big for blue.
Yeah. and there's also he's Draken now, but anyway, Jason David Frank and the original former Pring Ranger Amy Jo Johnson, who will forever be on the list. But so and so they take a selfie at the Megazord. They don't really say much. They don't say anything, but it was nice to see them. I was like, I remember in the theater, I did that. I was the Leonardo DiCaprio gift where I saw it. I'm like, I like that nod. And then I thought it was really cool. But overall, did you like even though you agree that you needed more time, what did you think of the Megazord?
Yeah, overall I thought the Megazord was fine. I thought it was cool. It kind of played this fine line of realistic, paying homage to the OG. Would have liked to see more of it, but in the end, like I said, it's the third act I think needed to be cheesy. So again, I can critique it or nitpick it all I want, but in the end, that was the aspect I think of Power Rangers that I think we needed. It just the movie was so dark and realistic before that it's like when this third act came, it's like, okay, so how do we give the fans the Power Rangers aspect of it now? So in the end, it's fine. Like I said, my only critique is I would have liked to see more of it. That's really all it is.
And I didn't mind the design. Like I didn't hate it. It was okay. Yeah. My only issue is that, and here's where I'm coming from. That original Megazord is so awesome. That's true. I'm always gonna prefer that design. Like it just call it nostalgia, call it whatever you want, but I'm always gonna love that design. And nothing. I don't think. I mean, maybe Jonathan Entwistlle will prove me wrong. I mean, maybe he recreates the original, in a modern, that look, but for 2020. Whatever. But and if he does that, great. Because hell, we're getting the 89 Batmobile. We're getting the 89 Batmobile back, so it's possible.
It's true.
And that car will always be the Batmobile for me.
Yes.
The other ones will be cool, but nothing will top that. So that's where I am with the Megazord. It's like the 89 Batmobile. That's the Megazord. And everything else can be cool, but it's not that. So it's nothing necessarily against this iteration of the Megazord. It just can't be that for me.
Agreed.
So that's what that is. And then we get the it's a really nice ending that, Jason goes back to Zordon, puts his sword down, and Zordon says, "You should keep it yours." And he's like, "I'll be back for it." And basically that alludes to when you need us again, just call us. Then they're still in detention. How long does this detention last? Because they're still in detention. Billy is drawing a design. He draws the lightning bolt.
Yep.
So then we get credits. And then after the first half of the credits, we get a mid-credit scene, a la Marvel, and the teacher, random teacher who never had a name, says, "Oh, we have a new student in detention, Tommy Oliver," and he keeps calling Tommy Oliver 2-3 times.
Yep.
And it pans over to the desk, and what do we see? A green jacket on the chair.
Mm.
And the illusion or the alliteration is that had there been a sequel, we would have seen Tommy Oliver and the Green Ranger.
Mm.
Well, leaving the theater, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait for number 2.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And then by the time the DVD came out, I realized there ain't going to be no number 2. Which means I ain't going to get I ain't going to get my Green Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And I was upset. Now, I ain't starting no hashtag campaigns. I didn't start crying about the studio doesn't listen to what I want.
The Green Ranger.
It's fine. Yeah. But like the Green Lantern movie did it too with Sinestro in the mid-credit scene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
May I suggest? I want to. Okay, Marvel aside, because Marvel can do whatever they want. Because at this point, like I've said to you before, Marvel can tease anything and have no. It can have no, major context behind it.
Agreed.
But you know that there's going to be a payoff because no matter what a movie does, they keep trucking along regardless. But for every other studio, for the love of God, what I suggest you do from now on, if you insist on filming this stuff,
mm-hmm.
save it for the Blu-ray. Because no, I'll tell you why. Because by the time the Blu-ray hits, you'll know if your movie is getting a sequel or not.
Yep.
9 times out of 10, before the Blu-ray hits, everybody involved knows whether they're getting a sequel, right?
Yep.
So when a Blu-ray comes out, if you're getting a sequel, we've added this mid-credit scene that when you watch it, it'll give you a clue where we're going next. Mm-hmm. And then this way, if it's not there in the theatrical and there's not a number 2, I don't have to be upset.
Yeah.
So that's my caution going forward. Well, okay. So before we wrap it up and rate this thing, what did you think of that post-credit scene? And more so, would you have liked them to continue the trajectory of, because in this universe they set up that the Green Ranger was once Rita, so it was a female.
Right.
Would you have liked them to continue that trajectory?
Ooh, man.
I mean, Tommy could theoretically be a girl's name.
Sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
man, we're just gonna break this podcast up into 2 parts here because this is a whole other podcast in and of itself. Yeah. Okay. So, look, the post-credit scene I thought was cool because it's kind of that nod of like, oh, the Green Ranger's finally gonna show up, right? But I think we talked about this too before, right? Where I'm kind of on 2 minds of this because I think Tommy Oliver, again, Jason David Frank is so iconic that it's one of those things like, I don't know if anybody else could really play the Green Ranger other than him, but you can certainly try. Yeah. So I think by them making it a female, I think kind of separates the comparison to Jason David Frank, which is fine. I think a female Green Ranger could probably actually be pretty badass if you ask me. They can kind of go a different few ways with that. Rita being the Green Ranger, there's comparisons that it probably was going to be a female itself too. My only problem with that is like when you tease something that big and you don't deliver on that, that's kind of an issue for me. Like I was like you, Adam. I was so excited. I was like, dude, the best Power Ranger in Power Rangers history, in my humble opinion, is about to be in the sequel. Like, that's awesome. Like, the Green Ranger is coming. Like, that's incredible. And then we find out that we're not going to get it, right? So it's kind of like, And they probably didn't know that at the time. You know, they wanted to just throw
Well, when they
everything
were
in.
making it, they assumed. I mean,
I'm
nobody
sure
assumes
nobody
that.
was
Hey,
even cast yet, too, which is okay. But um, in the end, I think it does kind of explore the possibility too of that it kind of would also even out the ratio of men and women too.
yeah,
You know, like in the series, it's not just 6 guys and 2 girls and blah blah blah. You know, it could have been what 4 guys and 3 girls, so it
yeah.
kind of evens out, right? Um, so again, missed opportunity. I wish they could have seen it
Well,
play out a little bit more. I'm with you. I would have loved them to carry on this trajectory too, because again, even if the first movie was as divisive with bands, you could have corrected in a sequel and keep the
yeah.
same cast because they were
And
terrific.
I think ultimately, where I think the box office disappointment in the movie ultimately lies
Mm-hmm.
is Lionsgate and the promotion, because
Yeah.
like I'm I'd like to believe that Lionsgate is a decent sized studio.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the smaller ones though in Hollywood, I would think,
Yep.
by comparison. And it doesn't have the marketing muscle of a Paramount, a
Yep.
Sony, a Warner Brothers, or heaven forbid, Disney. It certainly doesn't have the Disney machine behind it. So had the Power Rangers brand had one of those behind it when this movie was coming out, I think it would have been a lot better, because I think this movie flew under the radar for a lot of people. Like
Agreed.
it hardcore fans knew it was coming. Like fans of the brand already knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
But when you release something theatrically, you have to get the general audience who's like
Yep.
the successful IPs, the blockbuster movies are contingent about not only grabbing the hardcore fan base, because let's be honest,
Mm-hmm.
guys like us are there opening weekend.
Yeah.
The reason things make four, five, 600, all the way to a billion, is because the general audience sees something, they love it, and it's the rewatchability of the thing.
Agreed.
So you have to attract the general audience. Well, a lot of people didn't. I mean, they knew in '93, Power Rangers was huge.
Yeah.
Parents knew about it because their kids, the kids loved it, this and that. But
The movie in '95 too. Yeah.
yeah. But how many people, adults that like that are not our age anymore,
Mm-hmm.
like our age will know, but older or newer younger kids,
Sure.
how many of them know that Power Rangers is still a thing that's on? It's still a thing that's happening, right?
Yeah.
And the studio didn't do anything, or Lionsgate didn't do anything to build that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when they cast the thing, it was dropped on Twitter. Like, the casting was dropped on Twitter.
Yeah.
So right there is you're catering to the fan base that's already.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it needed a lot more promotion put into it for it
Mm-hmm.
to be a proper reboot and succeed. Like there's very few properties that can sell itself on the name of the IP alone. Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman
Yep.
are probably the only three that my 94-year-old grandmother in Italy, if I show her a picture of Batman
Mm-hmm.
or Superman, will know who
Yeah.
that is,
Oh yeah.
or Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
If I show my grandmother a picture of the Power Rangers, she's gonna be, what the fuck, what the blank is that?
Yep.
So again, I think a lot of the failings was the promotion,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, it made what was it, 100 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It wasn't cheap. Yeah.
No, but I think it grossed.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think it hit past 200 million. I don't think. Or it might have, but it wasn't a
Yeah,
big box office hit at all. Yeah.
but so I think you needed you needed to understand that the core fan base was there, but again, you had them opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the misfortune of the thing was the marketing, the studio that it was with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I think being a Netflix is the best option for the brand, because there isn't the same pressure in terms of box office, because the metrics of success are different for Netflix. But also, I think like Netflix, there's very few people in the world that you can ask don't have Netflix, right?
Yep.
So it'll get a wider reach on Netflix, and I think that'll benefit the brand. So I'm happy that it's a Netflix. And again, I know a lot of people are like, "Well, they should make this theatrical," but I'm okay that they don't. If they don't, because right now they need, especially with this rebooted universe, they've got to reach as many people as they can. And I think Netflix, that thing streaming into your home is a great way to do it. And maybe because it's a Netflix movie, it will get a limited theatrical at some point when the movie portion of it happens. But the good thing will be it won't be solely dependent on box office. And I think that is the blessing for the rebooted universe. And by the way, I just threw my casting suggestion on now. I don't know if there is going to be a Green Ranger in early on, like at least initially start. But if there is, this is on Netflix. So, and I know, listen, this is going to be the most obvious fan cast in the history of fan casting, but I don't care, because when it's so obvious and it makes sense, you just do it, damn it. Netflix, you have the guy right under your nose. He's on Cobra Kai right now. He plays Johnny Lawrence's son.
Yeah.
The actor Tanner Buchanan.
Yep.
If that guy doesn't look like a young Jason David Frank, I don't know who does.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So
he could pull it off too, I think.
Have him do double duty. He's already on your payroll. Just pay him again and say, here's green armor. Let's go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's what I would do. And before we rate this, and we'll get out of here, but a quick thought process. Just want to pick your brain.
Yeah.
We talked about the suits. So in this rebooted universe, I have a feeling that they'll go with a similar aesthetic. It won't be exactly the same.
Yeah.
But it'll be similar to what we saw in the movie, I think. What's your take?
Yeah, I think you're gonna see something similar to what we got in the movie, but maybe just a tad more recognizable. I think too, if that makes any sense. Because while I thought the suits in 2017 looked like Power Rangers, I can see the critiques a little bit. So I think that the suits are gonna be a little more streamlined, but it's not gonna be like spandex like we've been saying. So I think
they'll be armed.
I don't think it's gonna be like Iron Man 2.0 or nothing like that. But I think it's gonna be like armor, but just a little more streamlined. I think.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I would definitely assume that it would be a more armored.
Yeah.
Armored-esque. It won't. Again, I don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll be as Iron Man as this.
Yeah.
It'll be more of a. I think they'll try and find. If the suspicion of, hey, that teased by Jonathan Entwistlle means it's a Mighty Morphin inspired or a Mighty Morphin reboot, then if that's the assumption you're going on, they'll try and meld. Again, I'm going to use the visual aids.
Yep.
They'll try and meld this, but make it armored. So kind of. So imagine if you will, a hybrid of the 95 armor in the movie and the 2017 armor. Splice those two together, and I think that's the reboot suit.
Yeah. Those suits are good in 95. Yeah.
So, so that's what I envision. We'll see again. I'm anxious to see what they come up with.
Yeah, same here.
But while we wait for that, we got to give this movie a rating. So letter grades, Eddie. What do you think of this movie? What's the letter grade you give it?
Yeah, so my letter grade is gonna be a C plus. That kind of ranges out to be like a 7.5 out of 10. So great time. Again, I wish we've gotten more of it. And hopefully better horizons are ahead here with the reboot. What's your grade?
I'll give it a B plus. I really enjoyed most of it. Again, I had some issues. We had similar issues, but the overall experience was enjoyable. I thought it was a really good direction for the franchise at the time. And at the end of the day, I think this movie has extreme rewatchability.
Yep, agreed.
I just have to usually shut it off before the mid-credit scene because then I get angry. But the rewatchability is high.
Yes.
I like the music they chose. I like the score. Only thing I could use less of Kanye, but it's fine.
Sure.
The Kanye portion of it, but yeah. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I didn't mention this, but Naomi Scott on the list. Becky G.
If she wasn't on the list, if they weren't on the list, Adam, I'd judge you. Come on now.
So, all good. And like I said, I would happily throw this movie on. You know, if I watch it once a year, cool. I'm good with that.
Yep.
And I'm echoing your sentiment. I think a brighter future for the franchise is upon us. I trust Jenny Klein and Jonathan Entwistlle, and I think anybody who's looking for a Power Ranger fix that isn't watching, the current show while we wait for the reboot, the Boom Studios comic books are phenomenal. Or more phenomenal, I'll say. Just why not? And I can't recommend them enough. If you're not reading them, read them, because I think, and this goes to, again, I'm not telling Jonathan Entwistlle or Jenny Klein what to do. I'm not going to harass them on Twitter, but read those comics. If you want to use them for inspiration, do it, because they're fantastic. And so that's my recommendation to all the fans out there. But until next, Zeddy and I will be back. We'll probably do, what are we in, June, July now?
Yep.
The anniversary is actually premiered in September, did it not?
It did, yes.
Of 93. So I know we did the rebooted movies, but here's my proposal for our next episode. In September, around the anniversary of the first episode, we go back and review the pilot episode.
That's going to be fun.
So that's what we'll do. And
there you go.
That'll be closer to September. Unless between now and then, if major news breaks, Zeddy and I will hop on here and
we'll be
do
back.
something in between there.
Yep.
But until then, you can follow us on social media and talk with Zeddy and I. So where can they find you, my friend?
Yeah, thank you so much again, my man. Always a blast talking with you. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Nick Zednik, but most importantly, please go give my podcast that I co-host with my good friends, the Carusos, at Vigilante 1939, and you can find that podcast wherever you get your podcast at. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. And if you want to chat with me, it's at Adam_LeafsFan on Twitter. We have a Facebook group for the podcast network that is somewhere in the description below. Click that. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there as well. But until next time, remember that the Power Rangers 2017 reboot is forever. From their first day in detention to their last. So long, everybody.